The first part of the novel gives us an insight into the city's life. The author states some details of a pretty monotonous and ordinary lifestyle of a city placed in a province. Oran is a simple city inhabited by ordinary citizens. On the 16th of April nothing interesting or remotely exciting happened, but that morning became extraordinary for one citizen. That day Dr. Bernard Rose found a dead rat outside his doors. He called the landlord that claimed there were no rats in the house. After the rat has been taken care of, no one gave much attention to this event. Dr. Rose's wife was ill, so the doctor took her to a hospital and then went back to his routine of visiting his patients. Soon the cases of dead rats piled up and the streets became flooded with them. A young journalist from another city, Raymond Rambert, looked for the doctor because of a survey he was doing, and the theme was the life conditions of the Arabs. The two of them also commented on the rats, like all of the other citizens that would encounter each other on the streets. In the meantime, the doctor's mom came to take care of the household while his wife was absent due to her illness. The dead rats were such a common thing that everyone talked about it, from the people to the local newspaper and radio stations. One day the doctor realized that his landlord was acting strange, and when the symptoms like heavy breathing and swellings on his neck appeared, the doctor got worried. Since he was expecting to hear from his wife, he somehow neglected the patient, hoping his state will get better on its own. Soon after he was visited by Joseph Grand that wanted to tell him how he prevented an attempt of murder. The crime of Mr. Cottard was revealed, and he tried to hang himself. After the doctor took care of him, he decided to check up on his landlord. He was getting worse by the minute, and in the end he died. After that, Jean Theroux is introduced into the plot. He spent his days having a good time with Spanish dancers. Theroux wrote down his impressions about the town and its people. With time, everyone got more concerned about the rat situation, and more people were getting ill. Still, no one had the courage to face the illness, so the plot continued slowly. They waited for test results for days, and only an older Dr. Castel talked about the truth. He said that a plague came to the town. Nobody believed him, because the plague was long gone from the civilized world. The city was placed into isolation, and the life conditions changed abruptly. The story follows up on a few characters that fought for life in a city where the death ratings have gone up. In the beginning everything was ordinary, but with time people had to adjust to the disease. The funerals weren't like they used to be, and some families were placed into a quarantine. People acted differently about the plague. Some wanted to experience as many nice moments as possible because they felt death coming, while some constantly tried to escape and fought the guard. Raymond Rambert suddenly realized that he was in love with a woman that lived outside town and wanted to go to her. He asked Dr. Rewicks for a confirmation about his health so that the guards would let him leave town, but Doctor wouldn't give it to him. The journalist thought that, since it wasn't his town, no one knew how he felt and that he had every right to leave. He did admit to himself that it wasn't about his big love, but his well-being. When he saw the doctor being apart from his wife, he felt ashamed and decided to stay. He even joined the forces that helped to the ill, and they were formed by Theroux. Cottard, that tried to kill himself, sees happiness in the plague because it stopped his arrestment. Many people join Rose, including Rambert and Theroux. Everything became different, the values changed, and the things no one noticed before became significant. The misfortune brought people living on the edge of life closer together. Everyone was questioning themselves, their lives and deaths that happened more often. Healthy people avoided the ill, and they got into more and more confrontations with the guards. There was even an underground that smuggled people. Rambert asked for their help to leave town as soon as possible, but it didn't work out for him, so he stayed there. Dr. Ruz, ill himself, started to have difficulties in dealing with many assignments and problems, so he often forgot about himself. In the unbearable situations, people confided more and more to each other. The doctor told Rambert a story about his father that left home and wanted to save every human life. January, 9 months after plague's arrival, brought news. Rats and cats started appearing, and it was the sign of the plague going away. People couldn't believe it was getting weaker, because they learned how to live with it, and they even stopped rejoicing about good news. Soon after, a news came about the death of Ruz's wife. Even though she was well protected from the plague, she couldn't survive her own illness. In the last storm of illness, Tarut died, which upset Ruz a lot. He lost many people in his life, but he won the battle that concerned all of the people of his community. Grand also died after realizing too late that his life calling was writing, because he hopelessly searched for the perfect sentences for his work. Mr. Othen's son also died, and he decided to change then and join the community. When the plague was extinguished, Cottard challenged his own faith. He came to a confrontation with the police and got himself killed. The end of the novel brings us the thoughts of Dr. Ruz. He listened to the joy and happiness on the streets of his city, but thought that no one could ever know when the plague will be back to change and take numerous lives.